footballers who we probably just didn't see enough of due to injury. You know, lads who were absolutely brilliant. It was very obvious that they were going to be a star, but probably injury robbed them. And I think Matt Connor must be the biggest name of all, because he was just a glorious footballer back in the early 80s, and injury obviously robbed him of the rest of his career at age 24. But you know, when you look back at these classic games, Fintan, you see him playing against Kerry, and he's got the grace and the flow of a footballer. Now, he's obviously your county, Michael Vardy, but he just has the grace and flow of a guy who actually is a Kerry footballer and a Kerry great.
Yeah, he does. I think he came up recently as well with a friend of this show, Will O'Callaghan, was picking his Offaly Mount Rushmore for off the ball, and I think he was initially omitted, and Shane Lowry was kind of saying he'd quite happily give up his spot for him. So, like, you know, Bernie will explain this better than we will, but he seems absolutely revered in Offaly for what he achieved, and for kind of his attacking style of play and all that. And you know, I obviously never saw him play, kind of like going on old footage, but the thing that kind of strikes is how much admired he seems to have been outside of the county. I mean, you know, you could say that given the standards Kerry football has, it probably maybe takes a lot of times to impress them. But a lot of those players, they all seem to have been really, really impressed by Matt Connor. You know, I can't remember what year was it that he got 2-9. Was it in an All-Ireland semi-final? Was it against Kerry?
1980, yeah, 1980, yeah.
You know, that game has been kind of talked about a lot, like, you know, and that is just that his kind of, you know, his movement, his kicking style, all that, scoring ability, that he could have, you know, fitted comfortably into any era or any team.
Yeah, I presume you've, like, that Fintan is on the ball there. He's just absolutely revered in the county, Mike.
Absolutely revered, yeah. Looking back at the clips now, and I just looked at a bit before we come on here, you know, you look at, you know, old footballers from 30, 40 years ago, and you wonder, would they have fit in the modern game? He was lean, he had skill, power, pace, poise, left foot, right foot, a brilliant dummy, a brilliant sidestep. He basically had it all. He would have absolutely thrived in the modern game. And you look at, like, his scoring records, like it's a 6-year career with Offaly. That's all it was, 6 years. He scored 13 goals, 142 points. That 2-9 that Fintan says in the 1980 semi-final against Kerry is, like, widely regarded as one of the greatest individual performances of all time. Like, he enjoyed massive success with Walsh Island, which is a tiny club in North Offaly on the Laois Offaly border, playing with his cousins Liam and Tomas, and obviously his brother Richie, who captained the side in '82. Absolutely revered. He obviously had the car accident on Christmas Day of 1984, which left him paralysed, and, like, Offaly didn't compete in another Leinster final until 1997. After that incident, had obviously won the All Ireland in '82, were beaten by Dublin in '83 in the final, and never appeared in another Leinster final. And that's, like, Matt not being there is obviously was a massive reason for that. He was just unbelievably talented, and, like, he, as I said, he wasn't carrying any weight. He had the ability to go on, and we hadn't seen his best football yet. Like, best footballer, we usually see 27, 28. So you're probably going to see Matt in the Offaly jersey for another 10 years. And the fact that he was able to kick frees and do all that as well meant that he'd be the sort of lad that you could keep playing him as long as he was fit to play until his mid to late 30s. Just an outstanding footballer. And yeah, just like we talked to Pat Spillane a few weeks ago, Shane, he's the one thing he said about 82. If the only good thing came out of 82 is that Matt Connor got an All-Ireland medal, well, then I'm okay with that. That's just how revered he was.
Brian Mullins was another that suffered a terrible time with a car accident. Obviously, his wasn't quite as severe as Matt Connor's, which of course was terrible. But can I just ask you about Walsh Island? Do you know why the club is called that? There's so many interesting club names out there, and I always think of Ladies Walk, a junior hurling club down in Kerry, and that was something to do with the old, I think, English landlords, and there used to be a particular area where the women would walk up and down that was called Ladies Walk. But why is it called Walsh Island? Is it something like, you know, obviously Offaly is one big massive bog. Was there a patch of grass in the middle somewhere and they just called it Walsh Island?
I knew once I mentioned Walsh Island I was going to be asked, and I wouldn't mind. They actually trained down there a bit when I was on the Offaly football panel, and I actually don't know the exact reasons behind it. It's something to do with, like, that. Walsh Island is obviously in the middle of a bog. It's not an island of land, but it's an island per se. It's tiny, like it is, like, tiny. It's you're looking at, like, 20 to 30 houses back in the day when the Connors were playing, and they competed in Leinster finals and everything back in the day. I'm not sure of the exact reason why it is called Walsh Island though, but I'm sure one of our many Offaly viewers will chime in and let us know.
Absolutely. We'll keep an eye on the comments in case anyone does get back to us. Fintan, any other footballer come to mind when you think of those that we didn't quite get to see the best of?
Yeah, I suppose I was thinking about this, that the players that kind of strike to mind to me are players who kind of suffer multiple injuries, that, you know, would suffer a serious injury, would try and rehabilitate and come back. And the kind of ones that really kind of bring to mind is the cruciate has always been the big injury of the last kind of decade. A couple of guys have done it twice, like David Morin did twice early on in his career. I mean, he obviously came from, you know, a big family background, you know, rich football heritage and all that. Was trying to break into a really, really strong Kerry team. Does his cruciate twice. Then he suffers a really serious eye injury in 2013. But he comes back at the end of that year. And then by the following year, 2014, he's starting the team and wins an All-Star. So he's probably one that maybe it's kind of different, that we have probably seen him at his peak, and especially last year as well, he was really, really good. He's kind of rehabilitated from them. But Colm O'Neill probably is the one that kind of spring to mind as well. I mean, like 3 cruciate injuries. I mean, he still packed a lot into his career. You know, he played in an All-Ireland senior final, won a medal. He won 2 under-21 medals, was captain for one of those, and he won his All-Star in 2012. But every time the career was kind of getting going, it was kind of hit by that injury. So I was looking at it, it was 08, 2011 and 2013, he suffered the 3 of them. I think 13 as well was a really, really bad blow for him, because obviously you're going to say, well, it was the third one, which obviously makes it more serious. But given how well he played in 2012, and I mean, I think I've also thought that at times Cork probably played better football in 2012 than they played in 2010. I mean, the first half, say that All-Ireland semi-final against Donegal, was absolutely brilliant stuff to watch, and he is playing really, really good. I think it's Neil McGee's marking him, but he was brilliant that year. He got an All-Star. But you know, you think then, right, he'll bound into 2013 and he'll have a good run in it. And it was against Donegal again in a league game that he did for the third time. Now he came back. He played for a couple of years, and it was impressive to kind of keep going as long as he did, even mentally, as much as anything. You know, Paddy Bradley's another one that, you know, he would have done the cruciate twice in kind of quick succession. You know, like, I suppose we did see a lot of him, in fairness, you know, over the years, but probably it was a difficult end to his career. I think he did it twice in the space of 18 months around 2011, 2012.
Yeah, actually, you mentioned Colm O'Neill, and I remember he went out to do the international rules in Australia, and we were in, I think it was Perth maybe, and he was coming down the street, you know, there was a big gang of them, maybe there was a press event going on. I remember thinking how built up his legs were, his thighs, so obviously you build up all the muscles either side of the cruciate to try and, I suppose, take a lot of the load for the knee. But yeah, in great nick. Yeah, you just wonder what level he would have got to, because he was a young footballer of the year. You mentioned David Morin, his good friend who went down under, Tommy Walsh, he was a footballer of the year, young footballer of the year in 2008, and David Morin, I think, briefly went down under with him. But of course, injuries,
for about 6 weeks, I think.
Yeah, and like, he ripped the hamstring off the bone, came back to Ireland eventually, I think around 2014, never fully, because of injury, got to the level that 2008 promised when himself and Donaghy were the Twin Towers for Kerry. You just wonder what level, like, and he has actually shown flashes of it in the last couple of years. Even I remember being down at watching Kearns O'Reilly play in late 2017 or late 2018, and he was going around with his hamstring just completely bandaged up, standing on the square, could barely move. But then again, last year we did see signs that this guy has serious talent, and you just wonder what level he would have got to.
Yeah, I think the complication for him as well is that it wasn't just a serious injury he suffered. He was trying to come back and play a different sport. And I mean, if you shot any of the guys, the rule guys who come back, there really is this sense, especially if they played well before, or they've kind of emerged for the county before they moved to Australia. Like, everyone expects them to come back in the exact same, you know, shape and the kind of same form that they were in beforehand. But like, it doesn't work like that. And the way that Aussie rules has kind of changed. Like, if you think about maybe 10, 15 years ago, the type of Aussie rules player was kind of, you know, really, really big, powerful figure. Now it's kind of a bit more athletes are looking for. The game has kind of changed a bit, and the physical requirements are different. And then obviously they're coming back, like we've talked a lot about how Gaelic football has changed. So Tommy Walsh had to come back from that injury, get himself right, and then kind of get himself back for a Gaelic football, a sport that had completely changed from the one he'd left and the one he'd excelled in 08 and 09. But yeah, like, you're right, it definitely was at the Tyrone game last year when he came on. You know, there was kind of flashes that he was kind of coming back and could have been really, really kind of threatening again. And obviously this would have been a big season for him then to kick on and, you know, kind of get that confidence under his belt. So maybe there's still hope for him yet. There's a couple of others that we were kind of talking about. Michael Meehan's probably one of the biggest ones, isn't he? Really, nothing. It was kind of. It seemed like it was the ankle the whole time. That was the issue, and that never really kind of probably got right for him. Because he had such unbelievable success at the start of his career. I mean, he had 2 All-Ireland under-21s, a Hogan Cup, a Sigerson, and an All-Ireland club medal, and probably the star on all of those teams. And that was at the age of 21. And then he won a couple of Connacht Seniors after that, but he didn't quite. All his success was kind of front-loaded at the start of his career. And part of that was because of Galway, the way they kind of maybe sit down from the top tier. But it's hard to think of a guy who, achieved so much and packed so much in the early years and was touted so much. And everyone talks about the flashes after that. Maybe the Kerry game in 08 and the rain kind of stands out, and the goal he got against Cork in 2013. But frustrating for him more than anyone. We just didn't really see enough of it.
And even Sean Armstrong to some degree lost plenty of games due to injury, and they both made a comeback latterly under Kevin Walsh. Other players that kind of stand out here, Collie Morin, I think even with Dublin injuries was definitely hard on him. Danny Hughes of Down, of course, he was brilliant and won an All-Star in 2010 when they got to the All-Ireland. Marty Clark with illness, and obviously he was flip-flopping with the AFL. Shane O'Rourke for me, I'd love to have seen the heights he would have got to. James O'Donoghue, since winning Footballer of the Year, I mean, his career has been pockmarked with injuries. And Roland Clark, of course, absolutely brilliant for Armagh, but same thing again, he just had injury after injury. Michael Verney, anyone else standing out to you?
No, Roland Clark is definitely the one that stands out for me. He's obviously Young Footballer of the Year in 2002. He actually went on to win 2 All-Stars after that. But he was riddled with injury, and he was just like, he was a big kind of a bullock of a full forward that was brilliant with the ball in hands, was brilliant off left and right. He was just a real important forward, and we just didn't get to see enough of him. James O'Donoghue, you mentioned there as well. He just hasn't been able to get back to the heights of 14. He was actually very good in the 15 final and was amazingly taken off, having been their top scorer from play that day. He did probably be 2 that would stand out. We're still hoping that we might see that from James O'Donoghue, who was very good in the league this year before obviously it finished up. And Shane O'Rourke is another one that you mentioned there. Obviously he has the pedigree. Son of Colum has been brilliant with Simonstown when he's able to stay fit, won a couple of county titles there, but just has had different sort of knee trouble, ankle trouble the whole way through. And it's just, when you have a big injury like that and you're able to get a run, it's okay. But when you have a big injury like that and you pick up a niggle and you pick up another niggle and you're just getting back right, and even Michael Meehan was the same. Like, it was management towards the end of the last 6 or 7 years. He had to be, specifically managed, and it does get difficult at intercounty level when you have to be managed like that. But hopefully someone like James O'Donoghue, we still could see him rise to those heights of 2014 again.
Fintan, you just wanted to mention Liam Doyle of Down as well.
Yeah, he just kind of jumped to mind because he was a guy I didn't really see much of him at senior level, but I just remember that Down. I was looking at, he captained Down to win the All-Ireland minor in 1999, and he was like unbelievably well touted, and like there was a good few guys on that team. So Benny Coulter came along and was one of Down's most successful footballers of the following decade. But I was just reading up on him. This was his kind of injury run. He was captain of Down in 2007. Season disrupted by hamstring quad injuries. 2008 he tore cruciate in his left knee. Rehab was delayed by an infection in the knee. And then he suffered quite serious tendonitis in the opposite knee, which extended his sidelines even further. And then that all led into 2010, the 1 year that Down get on a bit of a run in the qualifiers, get all the way to the All-Ireland final, and he's absent. And obviously one of the, like, when they only lose the All-Ireland final by a point, there's probably enough what ifs for Down football, but you just wonder, someone like him, if he could have maybe kind of realised the potential that he's shown at a younger age, or got the chance to, I suppose, more than anything, and he got a clear run of it. Like, that's a serious blow. The other one that kind of sprung to mind is one of the worst injuries I remember in Simcoe Park with Bino McDonald's. I think maybe 04. I mean, he was another heavily touted underage player, and in fairness, he played quite well for Leeds for a good few years at senior level. But you just wonder as well what sort of an effect such a serious injury had on him.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's anyone we've left out, feel free to get a comment in.